Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Always Chasing After Something. This will be Part 13, Chapter 8. Shota breathed out heavily while watching Izuku shut his door behind him. The conversation was clearly over, despite the kid's issues being nowhere near resolved. Izuku was good at that. He was learning. The second too many emotions came up, he found an excuse to run off or change the topic. You'd think, since Shota was so adept at doing the same thing, he'd be better at thwarting a teenager. But no, Izuku's exits were quick and efficient. Shota retreated to his room, leaving the door open for Bakugo's eventual entrance. No doubt as soon as he was done with the hot spring, he'd be in here demanding answers. Hopefully, Shota could learn some in return. In the meantime, he pulled out his phone to text Hisashi. Izuku just willingly came to talk to me about an emotional problem. He did what? OMG, I'm so proud of him. Wait, what advice did you give him? You're the last person anyone should go to for emotional help. I'm aware you're the emotional one in this relationship. It sounds lame when you put it like that. But what was the problem? Bakugo mentioned holding a funeral for Izuku while he was gone, and Izuku didn't know how to handle that. Turns out he feels guilty for not thinking of them while they mourned him. Ah, poor listener. That's tough. What did you tell him? He left as soon as he realized it was guilt he was feeling. He's determined to ignore it. Shota, that's not healthy. He ran out the door. What was I supposed to do? All right, fair enough. We'll have to work on that when you guys are back. Just add it to the list. How did the rearranging go? Hisashi sent an image. Shota opened the pictures. The first was the guest bedroom, now apparently their bedroom, with their bed and dresser squeezed in. The desk was nowhere in sight, but Hisashi added another picture showing the desk in a corner of the living room. Their master bedroom now had the twin bed and the futon in it. A new twin bed will be here in a few days, and I want to put folding screens between the beds to give them more privacy. What do you think? It looks great. I think they'll like it. I hope so. A knock on the door pulled Shota's attention up. Surprise, surprise, Bakugo lurked in the doorway. Can we talk now? Come in, Shota said, and shut the door. Obviously, Bakugo muttered, doing as asked and taking a seat in the same chair Izuku had been in. So, what do you know? Where's he been? Where did this little sister come from? You know I can't tell you everything about him, Shota began instead. He sat down on his bunk. He has a right to his privacy, and if he doesn't want people knowing, I'm not going to betray that trust. Bakugo let out an impressive and colorful string of swears. Shota held up a hand. You deserve some answers. I'm not denying that. Keep in mind, I don't even know the full story. Most of what I know is conjecture from things he said over the last few days. I don't care. Just tell me. I know he was kidnapped at 5 years old and held in some sort of lab. He wouldn't detail what kind of lab. Bakugo didn't need to know that, and Shota wouldn't share that piece of intel without permission from Izuku. All Might happened to raid that lab a few years later, and Izuku used his presence as a distraction to escape. I don't know where he went from there, or how he survived. He refuses to talk about that period. Fucking hell, Bakugo muttered, leaning over his knees. Were you expecting this to be a happy story? No, obviously not, but shit. How'd you run into him? Shota wouldn't breathe a word of Izuku's alias. Bakugo would have to live with disappointment. I saved his life and learned he was taking care of Eri. They're currently on the run from some villains, so I've offered them shelter and safety while heroes take care of the situation. But why is he going around calling her his little sister? Are they blood related? Bakugo pressed. No, they're not. But they came to rely on one another like family. That can't be all you know, Bakugo said. There are details I won't tell you, because that's for Izuku and Eri to tell you, not me, Shota said. But for the most part, this is the gist of what I know. Izuku doesn't tell me much. This is bullshit, Bakugo stated, reaching up to tug on his hair, a habit Shota assumed he'd learned to keep himself from spreading his explosive sweat over his face. I don't disagree. Shota crossed his arms and leaned sideways against the headboard. Even the police files for him and his mother are sparse, like they were filed out as a token gesture and no real investigation put together. Bakugo huffed. For a quirkless nobody like him, of course they didn't even try. Ma gave him hell for years to try and find answers and even hired a PI. Never learned anything. Mental note. Get the name of that PI and see what they've found, if anything. So, you have nothing to add for me? Nothing, Bakugo admitted. Disappointing, but not surprising. That could be the tagline for this whole search into Izuku's past. Hey, does he have a quirk now? Bakugo asked. He moved way too fast earlier when going after Grapehead. He does, Shota said, picking his words carefully. A product of the years he was kidnapped. Bakugo glared at the floor. He would assume it was a forced activation, something dormant within Izuku the whole time, naturally awakened by the high-stress environment. Shota saw no need to correct him. What the fuck do we do now? Bakugo asked. A question Shota asked himself multiple times a day. We convince Izuku not to disappear once the threat to him and Eri is gone. You were friends as kids. Rekindle that friendship. I'm trying. Fucker keeps pushing me away. Because you keep asking him about things he doesn't want to talk about, Shota said. He didn't need to have been at the hot spring to know that was all Bakugo was interested in. He avoids thinking about painful things, almost to a fault. First step in befriending him is learning not to ask questions you don't have to, and letting him keep his secrets. Was he really teaching a 15-year-old how to make a friend? Was that what his life had come to? No one warned him about this part of teaching. Bakugo growled. Fine, I can mind my own business. He stood up and turned to the door. Bakugo, Shota called, prompting the teen to half turn back to him. Whether Izuku admits it or not, he does need friends. He's been alone for a long time. His hands curled into fists, and Bakugo took a deep breath. Got it. Good night, Aizawa-sensei. Night, kid. We start early tomorrow. Waving his acknowledgement, Bakugo put his hands in his pockets and left. Shota basked in the silence. He didn't drink alcohol, but tonight was one of those nights he wished he could forget all his problems in the bottom of a bottle. If he wasn't planning on being up at dawn for training, he'd at least go get a coffee. But even decaf coffee would keep him awake for an hour or two. Another knock on his door dashed all his hopes and dreams of peace and quiet. Sighing, he heaved himself up and went to see who it was. Mineta glanced carefully around the hall. Yeah, he should have expected this. I know why you're here. Come in. That kid tried to kill me. He's crazy, Mineta said, slipping past Shota into his room. Shota shut the door. Trust me, if he wanted you dead, you'd be dead. It wouldn't be the first person Izuku had killed. He seemed to have no issues with the Shie Hisaikai members last week. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Mineta hissed. He all but promised to attack me again. I'm supposed to just fear for my life for the next 2 weeks? Shota raised a brow. The way I heard it, Izuku threatened to attack only if you continued your... He probably couldn't outright call the student a pervert. That might get him in trouble if Mineta went to a higher power. Unwanted advances on the girls. Personally, I don't blame him. Mineta's mouth dropped. You've stayed in my class because you have potential. Just because you're obsessed with girls and R-rated activities doesn't disqualify you. How could it, when the R-rated heroine Midnight was one of his co-workers? Half the time Midnight was one wrong touch away from harassment herself. When used right, it could be a powerful persona or gimmick. Mineta, however, was a long way from utilizing it that way. But you need to find the balance between your desires and what's proper. If you cross that line, I won't hesitate to expel you. And you better hope I get to you before Izuku does. And God help Mineta if he tried anything near Eri. They'd never identify the body. So I get a lecture and that psychopath gets to walk around like nothing happened? He tried to drown me. He's a danger to everyone here. Technically, they were all dangers to each other. Uraraka could launch someone into the air and drop them from a deadly height. Todoroki could freeze someone solid. Jiro could disrupt someone's heartbeat and give them a heart attack. They all had lethal quirks and skills. That was the point of all this training. Even Mineta could stick his hairballs over someone's face and suffocate them. Just because his students wouldn't, didn't mean they couldn't without the proper motivation. Izuku's motivation simply had an easier trigger button. That was all. I'll deal with Izuku, Shota promised, even though dealing with him mostly meant bribing the kid to stick around. My concern right now is your behavior. I won't punish you, since it seems Izuku already did that. But I will warn you that if there's another incident like this, you'll be out of my class and blacklisted from every hero school in the country. That was the best he could do to keep his student in line. He wouldn't stand here giving warning after warning. Either Mineta shaped up, or he didn't. Do you understand? Shota asked. Yes, sir, Mineta griped. Then get to bed. Mineta left unhappy, but that wasn't Shota's problem. He wasn't here to be friends with his students. Shutting his door, he flicked off the light and fell into bed, praying everyone else would wait until tomorrow. By the time Izuku and Eri went looking for breakfast, 1A had been training for a few hours already, and 1B was just joining them. The other class had been warned about Izuku and Eri, but they'd never met. Watching everyone individually train with their quirks was interesting. He and Eri walked around the grounds watching them all, careful to stay out of the way. Most of 1A waved hello at him or nodded their heads, while 1B looked curious. Lunch came and went, and Izuku worked with Eri and her knife. They were interrupted once by Yaoyorozu quickly dropping off a plastic knife for them to practice with because she couldn't handle watching Eri swing a real one at Izuku. It was a genuine idea, really. Knowing she wouldn't be able to hurt him, Eri wasn't afraid to go all out in a little spar. She put real effort behind her attacks, and Izuku was better able to correct her footwork and the way she angled the blade. Turn your wrist, like this, or you'll just run the flat of your blade over my arm. Like that. There you go. Eri finished that session sweaty, breathless, and beaming. There was a marked difference in her performance now, confidence guiding her strikes. Good job, Eri, Izuku said, cracking open water bottles for both of them. I'm proud of you. I want to be big and tough like you, she said. I'm sure you will be, one day, Isuku said. And I'll protect you, too, she added. He pulled her into a side hug. Not if I protect you first, he said. I thought you two weren't here to be heroes, Kota snapped, coming up behind them. We're not, Izuku said. He sipped his water, eyeing the scowl on Kota's face. There's nothing wrong with knowing how to fight, though. Kota frowned. Why don't you want to be heroes? I thought everyone did. Even you? Izuku asked. Of course not. I hate heroes. Fist trembled at his side, and he couldn't meet their eyes. He spoke with all the passion of someone who used to love heroes and still wanted to, but had faced crippling disappointment. Hey, Eri, can you go hang out with Aizawa for a few minutes? Izuku asked. She pouted, but ran over to the man, tugging on his sleeve to get his attention. Aizawa picked her up without a word, glancing back at him curiously. Izuku gave them a thumbs up and turned his attention on Kota. Don't tell Eri, but I don't always like heroes either. Eri was still young enough that she trusted heroes, and she hadn't understood enough about them to realize that none ever came to her rescue. To her, Izuku was a hero. He didn't need her arguing with him about that while he was trying to have this conversation. Kota's eyes lit up. You hate them too? He grimaced. At one point, yes, I was in a pretty bad villain attack, and not a single hero came to save me. But you're okay, Kota said. You're here, so it couldn't have been that bad. Trust me, it was bad. I'm here because I saved myself. Heroes are useless, Kota spat. They just want an excuse to show off their quirks. That's all anyone cares about in this world. But they do help people, Izuku said. Maybe they could be doing it better, but at the end of the day, there are people who get to go home who wouldn't have without heroes around. What about when the heroes don't come? Kota asked, voice wobbling. His eyes filled with tears. Who did they save then? They run off with their stupid flashy quirks and fight other people in their dumb quirks, and they leave their kid behind. Izuku was starting to get an idea of why this kid hated heroes so much. You know, when I was in that villain attack, I asked myself constantly, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Sometimes there just isn't an answer. That's stupid, Kota yelled, stamping his foot. They should have come home. They shouldn't have just left me. It's not fair, Izuku agreed. And you're allowed to be angry about it. Kota blinked up at him. Huh? Izuku shrugged. Something bad happened to you. I think you have a right to be mad. God knows I was pissed at the world and everyone in it for years. He still was, most days, but less often now. He didn't want to go around angry all the time with Eri next to him and risk scaring her. Kota dragged his arm over his eyes. How did you stop being mad? I didn't, Izuku admitted. But I found something I could put my anger towards. Aizawa would probably strangle him if he pointed this kid towards being an underground informant like him. Maybe for you that's, I don't know, an athlete, saving nature, whatever you like to do. I like drawing, Kota admitted, pulling the brim of his hat over his eyes. An artist, then. Everyone always tells me my quirk would be good for heroics, though, Kota said. And my parents and my aunt are all heroes. Everyone expects me to be like them. Fuck them, Izuku said reflexively, then winced. Don't repeat that. But it doesn't matter what your quirk is or what your family wants you to do. You need to do what makes you happy. I thought I was going to be angry, Kota said. Ugh, emotions. Not Izuku's strong point. I've been told we can have multiple at once. It's annoying, I know. Kota giggled. You're really not like anyone else I've met. There were several traumatic reasons for that, but Izuku didn't feel like sharing. Instead, he shrugged again. Probably a good thing. Do you think you could teach me how to use a knife too? Kota asked, glancing at Eri. Sure. He pulled one from his sleeve, making Kota do a double take. The first lesson is knives are dangerous. They are sharp and will make you bleed if you don't respect them. Kota absorbed every word he said like a sponge, his scowl never once reappearing on his face. Something in his eyes even lit up when Izuku handed him the knife to teach him the different holds. That was about the time Aizawa walked over. "Can you please stop giving every child you see a knife?" he asked. "This is literally only the second time, and bend your knees, Kota, and no, I will not. Kids should know how to protect themselves." How much different would his life have been if he'd known the bare minimum of self-defense as a kid? Elbows to the groin, fingers in the eyes, scream and make a scene. He'd be an entirely different person if things had played out differently. Aizawa sighed and looked up to the sky. "At least ask Mandalay for permission first. She might have an opinion on you giving her nephew sharp objects." "He taught me how to hold it safely before anything else," Kota snapped. "Don't go running to my aunt just because you think kids are dumb." "I didn't say that," Aizawa said. Kota pointed at Eri. "She's younger than me and she gets to learn. Why can't I?" Izuku grinned and looked up at Aizawa. "Yeah, why can't he?" Aizawa glared at him. "You're being difficult on purpose, aren't you?" He absolutely was, but he didn't see why that invalidated the question. "Clear it with Mandalay first," Aizawa insisted. Kota's scowl etched itself back into place. He shoved the knife back into Izuku's hand and stormed off. Izuku glared at Aizawa. "Why'd you have to ruin it?" "That's my job," Aizawa said. "For what it's worth, Mandalay will likely say yes. Parents just like to know what their kids are up to." Yeah. "By the way, would you be willing to spar with some students?" Aizawa asked. "Always. But why?" "They could all use some practical combat training. It'll give them a break from using their quirk for 10 hours a day, which some of them need." "Gotcha. Anyone I can beat up today?" Aizawa squinted at him. "Kirishima, Bakugo, or Uraraka. Your choice." "Oh, Bakugo, for sure." Izuku grinned. He wanted to punch Bakugo in the face so badly. Shame he wouldn't be able to watch it in slow motion. Nodding, Aizawa called out for him. All right, listeners, this concludes the first half to Chapter 8 of Always Chasing After Something. The second half to this chapter will be up next, which will continue with where this left off, with the sparring between Izuku and Bakugo, so I'm kind of eager to get us to that point as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts and reactions to the first half of this chapter, though, with some of the different relationships taking place. Of course, we get Aizawa talking with Hisashi a bit at the start, but we get that conversation between Aizawa and Bakugo as well. And, of course, Kota, right? Some new dynamics taking place there. The fact that Izuku has started some conversations with Kota is really starting to break through a bit with the kid. So leave your comments below with your thoughts, your reactions to everything so far. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.